Hello, and welcome to another week in review here. This is week 18. I'm just going to quickly go over what I did this past week. Nothing too special as usual, but I want to talk about how I kind of had a bit of an epiphany with my poses this week, where if I can find the right example, I could really show you, but I've kind of feel like I'm more able to see through these shapes lately and kind of like it's helping me really put together these forms in 3D. It took me a bit to get there, but I feel like I'm finally sort of getting it. So this one is June the 13th. And again, I'll look for a good example of it. This will be June 14th here. But that's kind of the main thing. I realized it maybe a few days ago, where I feel a lot more confident in kind of building these, like this sort of thing, when the torso is like half hidden in here. Like when there's stuff hidden, I feel really confident that I'm putting the lines in the right place, if that makes sense. So stuff like this, with this pelvis kind of twisting and like turning here, I feel like I can kind of see through it in a way that I haven't really been able to do as well as I'd like to, at least up until recently. So, you know, like stuff like this, with this pelvis really hidden in here, and like even the back of this torso, I'm kind of getting better at understanding like the proportions of this stuff. And like stuff, so it makes drawing things like this a lot easier, you know, where things are really hidden by other parts of the pose. So, and like stuff like this, right? I remember when I was doing this one, this was a pose of the day. This is on the 16th of this past week. I did this torso here, and then I'm like, okay, well, I have basically no information of what's going on in behind. So I had to use my brain to sort it all out, and I kind of erased the lines, I think. But what I did is I like thought about where the pelvis would be, and then I used that to kind of find this leg, and I did it like no problem. So I was like, oh yeah, I kind of know what I'm doing now. I felt like I had a bit of an epiphany this week in terms of, you know, being able to see through, right? Because like there's so much information hidden here just because this torso is coming toward the camera like that. There's stuff hidden behind it. So I feel like lately I've been doing a good job at that. And then this was the 17th. I think this is the day I really realized it. I think it was with this one. I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm kind of good at this. Like I kind of finally understand it. And like with this one, you know? So it's still really difficult, and it's still hit or miss, but I feel like I'm getting there, you know? I'm getting there. It's still a big struggle. Stuff like twists, you know? Like this sort of thing where the spine is coming around and then it's really hidden in this area. When the torso twists is still very difficult for me. So I'll have to focus on that sort of thing going forward more, maybe? I don't know. And then this was today's here. I think I did a pretty good job in general this week. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say aside from that with regards to these poses. I think I've been doing a good job, and I'm happy with the results. So why don't we look at the stuff I did this week? Once again, I did the practice where I grabbed like a pose. So for example, this one was this pose here. You know, I just take one of the poses that I did in the pose practice, and I kind of touch it up and turn it into some sort of a character. And I like to do just at least a base, you know, color scheme. I feel like it's a good way to just, you know, and I do these in like 2 hours. I feel like it's a really nice way of practicing and kind of making sure that I'm going through the process from start to finish. So this one was this one here, which I think was the first pose. It was a 90-second pose, the first of the day. It's always interesting when the one I want to do, you know, is the first of the day. But I think this one turned out pretty good. I've been thinking about mostly the face, and like if we look back at this one again, you know, the face and the hair, I've really been focusing on that these past 2 weeks or so, and I'm really happy with kind of the results, the understanding that I have, and kind of seeing the hair as like ribbons almost that kind of fold over each other. I'm still kind of getting used to it, right? But then there's like an underside and it flips again here. I think I'm getting used to it. It's getting there, but it's still hard. You know, none of this is easy. This is the next one, which I did one of these poses, this one here, you know. Sometimes it's hard because, you know, there's no head here, and this leg is very unclear. And what I actually did with this one is I changed the pose a bit. You see I lifted the arms up because I wanted to make use of the low angle. And so I thought if I had the arms coming all the way down, it would ground the pose too much in terms of like where the camera is at. I felt like having the arms up would kind of separate the pose from the camera, if that makes sense. I don't know, but like things like that a little bit too. I'm trying to think about like composition. And again, I've been focusing on the face and the hair, stuff like that lately. So I think it's working out pretty good. I did a Sailor Mars here. This one and then the one I did yesterday, which we'll get to in a bit. I've noticed that the coloring, you know, my line art in particular is really, I need to work on that, I think, is the stuff I learned from this week. So this pose, I think this was the inspiration, but I changed up the pose. You know, I thought of like a Power Rangers sort of Sailor Moon sort of pose, and then I was like, oh, well, I'll just do Sailor Mars. So I didn't end up using the same pose. I just grabbed some Sailor Mars reference and drew her. This is like her iconic pose, right? So, but yeah, you can see like my lines are just so rough and messy, and I'm basically using the same pencil brush for everything, right? So I think this week going forward, I'm going to focus on lines. Use some different brushes, try out different brushes, right? Because I think that's the next big step for me, is cleaning up some of these lines, right? You look at everything and like the pose is okay, the balance is fine, you know, everything looks kind of nice, but then it's kind of glaring that the lines themselves need some work. So I'm going to work on that this week. Then next, on Saturday, I played Passepartout. Once again, this is just a collage of the stuff I drew. This game is crazy. It's really difficult because it's all in one layer, right? So you have to really plan things out. So I just did some quick sketches there. It's always fun. And then I did this, I think the Saturday night. I just did like a quick proof of concept of like I wanted to see what this character would look like. This is like a character I have in mind for like a game or something I want to make. I was just, you know, messing around, trying to think of like how to do these twin tails sort of thing. But again, like I'm pretty happy with how I'm doing eyes lately. I've been practicing that, so yeah, did that off stream. So just a really quick like two-tone thing. I think what I'll do going forward this week when I'm working on lines is I'll do simple two-tone stuff like this. I won't worry about coloring too much this week. I'll just do black and white, you know. And then yesterday, on Sunday, on the weekend, I did this one, which I wound up drawing for 7 hours here. I wanted to go a little long, like I wanted to kind of put my everything, you know, into something and see what the result would be. And if you ignore this random bush here, because I kind of forgot to decide what was in the background here, everything else I think is fine, you know. The shadow is a little weird, but like the background, if you ignore the background, I think the character looks pretty good. Right? But again, the lines are kind of messy because it's all the same brush. It's all the same line weight, you know? So this one and that Sailor Mars one really hammered it home that I need to study that sort of stuff. So this is some fan art here. This is Hiruma from, what is it called? Neko no Otero no Chion-san, which is a manga by one of my favorite manga artists. So this one was fun. Like I said, it took me 7 hours. So I was just like, I was in it. In it till the end. That was fun. And there you go. That's my week in review. So, like I said, I'll go forward practicing the lines next week, and we'll see how what I learn. So, thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week with another review.